Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast. We're going to be talking about maximizing Facebook dynamic ad conversions and improving ROI. Today's presentation is hosted by CPC Strategy AddShoppers. Before we get into today's presentation, I have a couple minutes here before everyone kind of joins in. Maybe you kind of shoot over in the questions box over to the right, where you're airing from. It's always interesting to see where everyone's airing from. So kind of shoot that over. I'm airing from Greater Boston area. My name is Nick Codd. I'm the Marketing Operations Coordinator here at CPC Strategy. Let's see where everyone else is airing from. I'm actually, bear with me for today as well. I'm actually getting over a cold, or I just got the cold, so bear with me as well. But we'll have Peter and Sarah be giving the presentation today, so they'll be doing most of the talking. So it looks like we have Chris from Bellingham, Hendrik from South Africa. Welcome, Hendrik. Wow. Let's see who else we have. Megan from Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. Welcome. Mark from New York City. Welcome. Mark, another Mark from Portland. Welcome, Marks. Let's see. We have Nicole from New Jersey. Eric from Orange County, California. I believe I've seen you on a webinar before, Eric, so welcome back if that's the same Eric. Jack from Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome. Let's see. We have Talon from Los Angeles. Nice. Right in neck of the woods of CPC Strategy headquarters. We're located, our headquarters is in San Diego, so not too far, of course. Joseph from Atlanta, Georgia, welcome. Let's see, we have Brian from Dallas, nice, welcome. So we have people pretty much airing from all over U.S., looks like, and we have, of course, people in other countries as well. We have Oleg from Ukraine, whatever time it is there. It's good to see. It's always good to see from people airing from all over the, the world. It's always interesting, especially for these types of webinars. Rich from Dallas, welcome. Justin from Colorado, welcome, Justin. Catherine from Chicago, welcome, Catherine. Nice, okay. Time is it? A minute over. Cool. Well, without further ado, I know Sarah and Peter have a lot of content to get through today, so definitely want to kind of get things started here. But as I mentioned, today's webcast, what we'll be talking about is maximizing Facebook dynamic ad conversions and improving ROI. It's co-hosted with CPC Strategy and AddShoppers. So before we get started today, you can submit your questions in the chat box just like you did, where you told me where you're airing from, so you can do the same thing if you have any questions like that. There's myself down there, Marketing Operations Coordinator here at CPC Strategy. I'll be kind of going through all those questions and pitching them to Sarah and Peter towards the end of the presentation, and then also probably adding in a few questions here and there as well, just to be sure to address those too. So the session recording will hopefully be sent out tomorrow. I'm going to try to work through that and get that out to you guys. Like I said, bear with me though, I do have a cold and I'm trying to get over that, so hopefully I can get that out to you tomorrow. If not, probably a 2-day lag time there. Of course, we have two resources in the handout section, both actually co-marketed with AddShoppers too. One of them is around Facebook dynamic ads, the other one's around social commerce. So a couple good guidebooks you guys can take away with today. Download those, take them with you. And of course, we have a couple poll questions throughout the presentation, so let's try to get that participation up for this presentation as well. So a little bit about CPC Strategy. If you're not too familiar with who we are, we're founded in 2007, recognized an actual Google Premier partner, something that just happened in recent months, so something I'm really proud of here. I've been working towards in the past years. We have 400 plus active retail clients, and we've been one of the top fastest growing companies in San Diego for about 4 years now. So something, another thing we're really proud of here. We're retail focused PPC and Google Shopping management. We also have Amazon Sales Acceleration program here at CPC Strategy, and then we also have the Facebook performance marketing management that we do for a lot of our clients too. And you can see some of the bottom there at the bottom, some of the clients that we currently work with, from the Nestle's and Reeboks, the Pranas and Payless of the world, just some of the different clients we have. I believe the next slide here is actually a little bit about AddShoppers. Peter, if you want to kind of jump in here and give a high-level overview about AddShoppers and kind of what you guys do.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Nick. So here at AddShoppers, we understand that all marketing tactics eventually fail. So it is our mission to help any forward-thinking retail brand stay ahead of the curve and quickly and easily launch personalized marketing customer experiences so that you can continually hit the numbers that you need to hit, and we guarantee a strong ROI. A little over 1,000 brands use our platform. You can see some of those at the bottom, some of those logos down there. Quick freebie if you want to take it away. The 2016 e-commerce benchmark report is available at AddShoppers.com/2016. That's it for now. You'll see a couple examples of AddShoppers at the end during my section, but for now, let's go ahead and get back into the content.
Nice, thanks, Peter. Yeah, I mean, kind of bring you back into this too as well here. Maybe you want to give a little overview about yourself and your experience as well in kind of the ad space.
Yeah, sure. So I have been working with AddShoppers for over 5 years now. I started back in 2012 as employee number 1, and I have been with the company ever since. Worked with a good number of brands on both the ad side and also the more on-site engagement part using the AddShoppers platform. So it's been a good, great learning experience. I have learned a lot, worked on a good number of campaigns across our client base, and bringing some of those to share with you guys today, and really excited and looking forward to it.
Thanks, Peter. Hey, Sarah, maybe just give a little background about yourself as well, and then we'll kind of jump into things for today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Sarah. I'm the manager of CPC Strategy's Performance Social department. I have worked on performance social from anywhere from mom and pop shops to Fortune 50 companies. So I really have the broad range of what that means. Here at CPC Strategy, I really focus on driving revenue for my clients rather than branding. And so that's really what I'm going to walk you through today, our philosophy around how to really drive performance through Facebook.
Great, thanks, Sarah. So last thing before we get started for today, 6 minutes over here, but let's have a poll question to get things started. See if I can get that up and running. So just want to know, give Sarah and Peter, a sense of the audience for today. Are you currently utilizing or using Facebook dynamic ads as part of your advertising strategy? Yes, no. I mean, of course, this is going to help Sarah to kind of gauge who she's going to be speaking to and how she presents the content for today. So maybe just shoot that over in the chat box. Like to kind of get at least 60% of the audience kind of voting, so definitely join in for this. It's going to be very helpful for us kind of moving forward. So shoot that over. It looks like actually we did just reach 60%, so that's good to see. So I'm not sure, Sarah and Peter, if you guys can see this or not, but it looks like 61% aren't actually using Facebook dynamic ads as part of their advertising strategy just yet, whereas of course the 39% are currently. So kind of good to see moving forward here. Great. So without further ado, Sarah, you can take control of the screen and continue on with today's presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. You can rest your voice now. Perfect. So what I'm really going to talk about today is CPC Strategy's philosophy around how do we generate revenue from the top of the funnel all the way down to dynamic ads, which we would consider the bottom of the advertising funnel. A couple of different tactics that we use with dynamic ads that a lot of people don't necessarily utilize or know are available, as well as a quick case study that is available actually on cpcstrategy.com, but I will walk you through how we have basically done that full funnel approach with one of our clients. And then AddShoppers will also pop in as well with some tactics that they use specifically around mobile, and then a quick Q&A session at the end. So really diving into it, on the CPC strategy side of things, we really try to see Facebook as this full funnel approach. And so what that looks like, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the advertising funnel, and this is what we think it looks like for Facebook specifically. So up at the very top, your top of the funnel audiences you're prospecting are interest and behavioral audiences available on Facebook. And so this is based off of third-party tools that Facebook uses, and basically matches in their system, as well as interest-based audiences, so different audiences based off of the pages people like, as well as different topics that they talk about. Right below that is lookalike audiences, which I'm sure you're familiar with as well, where you basically plug in your first-party data, tell Facebook, hey, go find me similar people to this core group of people that are integral to my business. Facebook is able to match that. CRM audiences, basically from your email list or any other sort of first-party data that you might have. And then down at the bottom, WCA stands for Website Custom Audiences. And so that is the dynamic ads and also static retargeting as well. And so basically I will walk you through exactly what we look for each point in that funnel. So starting at the top with interest and behavioral audiences, really the goal here is to get as many of these people who are unfamiliar with your brand and your company to your website as possible. So what you really focus on here is getting the lowest cost per click that you possibly can. And the way that we typically do that is through an introductory brand message, why are you better than your competitor, as well as any sort of eye-catching images. And eye-catching images I recognize as a broad term, and that really is going to depend on you and your company and your customers. So what I would really recommend here is doing a lot of testing. There's no one type of image that works really well. That is really going to require a lot of testing on your side to figure out what resonates with your customer base. The audience here is going to be very broad. These are people that don't know anything about you yet, so it can be anywhere from 1 to 10 million users is typically the sweet spot that we look at. And so this is going to be modeled off of who you think your customer is. Facebook can get extremely granular, and so you can really layer on and get as targeted as you possibly can. We typically like to leave it in the 1 to 10 million range because that allows Facebook enough wiggle room to get you that lowest cost per click possible. And then you can really place this anywhere on Facebook, on Instagram, really to see what sticks for your customer base if you're just starting. And then we're trying to bid either towards getting the lowest cost per link click possible or towards conversions. Both of those objectives can work at the top of the funnel. It's really just a lot of testing and learning on your side. And then moving on to lookalike audiences, this is also very similar. We approach these very similar to the interest and behavioral audiences. However, they're set up differently. In that you basically plug in either your VIP customers or people who have recently purchased from you, basically your most profitable audience, and you say, Facebook, please go find me people that have similar behaviors to this core group of consumers for me. Because these people also don't know anything about you yet, this is a very similar approach. Introductory brand message, eye-catching images, and you're trying to get them to your website as efficiently as possible by getting that lowest cost per link click. Like I mentioned, that audience really is going to be based off of you guys. If you have your VIP customer base off your CRM list, great, that's perfect. If you have the pixel placed on your site so you know exactly who your purchasers are, that would also be a great audience to model off of. So it's really going to be dependent on what you have available. Those are some of the audiences that we have found work really well. Again, this can really be placed anywhere. With some testing and learning, you'll be able to refine that. But there's really no catch-all for that. Then moving on to your CRM audience, this is again your first-party audience. We see them convert really well, but not as strongly as people who have visited your website, only because of the recency factor. Someone could have been on your CRM list for a couple years, and they may not be necessarily in the purchasing mood versus someone who's visited your site. The couple of the segments that we really like to look at is being able to engage your email subscribers who maybe aren't necessarily opening your emails just yet, but they're still there and they've raised their hands and said, we're interested in what you have available, but maybe email is not necessarily the right place to reach them at this point in time. So we find that having really specific messages for each email list segment, as well as syncing with your email calendar, is really a winning strategy. You wouldn't talk to someone who has just purchased from you the same way that you would talk to someone who is maybe unsubscribed or who hasn't opened an email in the past 6 months. So really tailor that to the segment that you are, you're marketing to. And this is where you really start going more into monitoring them versus for their purchase value as well as their ROI. Up at the top of the funnel, you'll probably get some conversions, but really what you're trying to get is people into your funnel to be able to really remarket down in these CRM and WCA lists. So for CRM specifically, VIP customers would be great. You can also try targeting non-purchasers, so people who are on your email list but have never purchased from you, or unsubscribers. Could also be an interesting segment to test as well. Basically, you're able to reach people on Facebook that maybe email, they're getting caught in spam folders or something like that. And then the placement here, take a look at what's really working up at the top of the funnel. Maybe mobile works really well for you, and so the placement there is going specifically on mobile, or maybe desktop is working better. I would take a look at what those top 2 segments are doing to help inform where to most efficiently place these ads so you can cut out any sort of unnecessary ad spend. And then finally at the very bottom you have WCA, again, website custom audience. This can be static retargeting or dynamic retargeting. What you're trying to do here is segment based off of your recency to the website as well as their frequency to the website. And so you really want to target your messages to visitors' paths in the purchase funnel. Again, you wouldn't talk to someone who's just visited the home page the way that you would talk to someone who was almost ready to purchase and had abandoned their cart. And so you can do that through static. That would be creative that you choose and copy that you choose, or as we're really focusing on today, dynamic ads. And so this is really going to focus on people who have either viewed a product on your site or who have added to cart and abandoned. And we like to really segment those messages because even someone who has viewed a product isn't the same as someone who has abandoned their cart. So we like to give cart reminders, and you're really able to bring those people in who have visited your site in a certain amount of time. And then, again, we typically like to look at 3-day segments, 10-day segments, and 30-day segments, particularly for dynamic ads. Someone who has visited in the last 3 days and abandoned their cart, we know is always going to be the best performer versus someone who viewed content in the last 30 days and didn't actually purchase. We treat those people differently and try to really tap out that very bottom in terms of their recency as well. And these are really the people that are going to drive this whole business. So you're really trying to pull these people through the funnel, people that have never gotten to really interact with your brand before, up in that interest, behavioral, and look-like audiences, and bring them down the funnel to where they're actually viewing products on site, adding to cart, and you're able to retarget them in dynamic ads. The second section that I really want to talk about is how we use dynamic ads. So you can just do standard retargeting with them where this is what you viewed on site, this is what you have in cart, this is what we want to show you on Facebook. There's a couple other segments called cross-selling and upselling that we like to use with our clients, and we have found that to be really valuable as well. So for cross-selling specifically, you can target people who have purchased from you in the past and retarget them with something that they may not necessarily have viewed on site. So the way that we like to use this, the example being a protein supplements company. You know who has purchased protein from you before. You have the pixel on site. You know this person has purchased this particular type of protein powder. You have a new protein powder that you really want to push out. This would be the place to do that. You can basically retarget anyone who's visited in the last 30 days, 90 days, anything like that. They've purchased specifically protein powder, and you want to introduce this new product to them. This is really the place that you're able to do that. There's many ways that you could do that for your brand. Someone has purchased a pair of pants recently. Maybe you want to sell them some new t-shirts that you have in as well for like a full complete outfit. Really the sky's the limit in terms of how you can use that, but we found that to be a really powerful segment to have people really get into your funnel and not just be one-time purchasers, but be repeat purchasers for your brand. And then the upselling portion of that, this isn't going after people who have purchased in the past, but people who have viewed particular products. So really the example here is people who have viewed really a low average order value on your site. If it's a apparel retailer, people have just viewed hats and socks. And you're like, wow, the socks are really $5. That doesn't really help us very much in terms of really increasing the value of that customer. So let's retarget them with something that is, a bestseller or something that just has a higher average order value. So the way that we typically use that, if someone has purchased hats and socks, we have a certain threshold for that client, and we will have products that are above that threshold and retarget those people. Really the problem here could be they haven't necessarily raised their hand and said that they're interested in that particular product. So you have to really know your brand. You can take a look and see what those purchasers have really been. Maybe someone, what you typically see is people purchase shirts and pants. So if they've only viewed pants, hey, let's show them shirts as well for that full, complete outfit, so that they will add more things to their cart and really increase your return on ad spend there. And then finally, the way that we really use this is that full funnel approach where we're pulling people all the way down the funnel from people who don't know anything about you to hopefully repeat purchasers. So for us, Designer Living was really like a great case study of that. We were able to introduce dynamic ads to them. They previously were not running it. They really had only done more branding type messages, and they really wanted to get introduced to conversion-focused Facebook. So Designer Living is a brand name home furnishings and decor site. They really sell the whole gamut of things, anywhere from sheets all the way up to couches. So it's a lot of different value that you can have there, and just in terms of their average order value. So what we did for them is we started specifically on Facebook. They previously weren't doing a whole lot, so we introduced dynamic ads to help close that loop. They were doing a little bit of retargeting on the side, but dynamic ads were able to specifically show people what they had viewed on site, and that had been a huge, really a huge value prop for them. We also introduced carousel ads, and this was the static image as well versus just a single image. And that was really more towards the top of the funnel where it was those lookalike and interest-based audiences. And between all that, we saw a 114% jump in revenue from when we introduced dynamic ads and these carousel units from what they were previously doing. So we were really hitting every point in the funnel with these different carousel and dynamic ads, and really started that revenue engine for them. And then we also wanted to drive engagement, and this is really more towards the top of the funnel. We wanted, prospecting-focused ads that really were going to look at reach and get in front of as many new people as they possibly could to expand their brand recognition. So we had static ads that we, really built these custom audiences around, and then with that, we were able to see a 19% improvement in conversions on Instagram during, the final month that we were reviewing this. So again, this is really this view of pulling people through the top of the funnel through these engagement types ads, as well as static remarketing, and bring them all the way down. And so this is what the final result was. We had a 573% increase in Facebook revenue from utilizing these tactics, as well as a 511% increase in total engagement. And that equated to about a 219% increase in Facebook return from what they previously were at. So this is really the power of using this full funnel approach, that you can pull people who don't know anything about you and really make them into both repeat purchasers as well as first-time purchasers And that's really the power of Facebook. You can hit people at every point in the funnel. That's really the power of it. And from there, I will kick this over actually to Peter to talk about what he is able to do on that side of things.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. So yeah, I am going to jump in here and talk about essentially mobile strategy. How can we maximize conversions from mobile site traffic, which obviously ties back a lot to Facebook and social, like we've been talking about, because primarily most traffic from Facebook tends to be mobile, unless they're obviously only targeting desktops. And also, this is going to be, I'm going to focus a little bit more here on the on-site experience. So what happens once you get somebody from Facebook using dynamic product ads or maybe some other types of Facebook ads? What happens when you get that visitor onto your website? What's the experience there, and how can we make sure that we're maximizing the opportunity and the conversions that we're seeing from that group? So I am going to start here. Let me make sure my keyboard control is working. Here we go, with a quick gut check stat here. So these are some current numbers that we pulled actually this morning, so it's very recent. And what we're seeing from some of the sources across the web, around 55% of all website traffic is mobile. And then obviously around 45% is desktop. Don't be surprised if your numbers are different. You may, we've seen clients up in the 70, 75, even 80% mobile traffic pulling from their Google Analytics. So don't be surprised if yours is higher, maybe it's lower. But this is the average. Obviously, we've definitely, a couple months back, we crossed the threshold where there's more mobile traffic than desktop traffic. So for just about any brand out there, definitely a big segment to focus on, if not the biggest segment of your traffic to focus on. Point number two that's worth looking at while we're talking about mobile is, how do you convert mobile traffic? How long does it take to convert mobile traffic versus desktop traffic? So if you pull up the path length report in Google Analytics, you'll probably see something like this. If you set up two different segments, one for mobile, one versus desktop, this is reflected in that screenshot here. You'll see if we take the one up top. If we look at the number of the percentage of conversions that happen with one touch point, so someone types in your website domain, finds a product and buys, or someone clicks on a Facebook ad, finds a product and buys. One touch point. How many of those conversions, out of all conversions, how many were one touch point? And you'll see, comparing mobile versus desktop, it's much, much lower on mobile and higher on desktop. So this means desktop traffic is more likely to convert quickly with fewer touch points. Mobile traffic, it's more likely to convert with more touch points. If we look at the bottom, so move down to the bottom where it says 12 plus interactions, now we see the opposite. It's just like basically double the percentage of conversions that took 12 or more touch points are mobile versus desktop. So essentially, a lot of numbers and data that you might not be familiar with, but the key point here, once you boil it all down, is mobile traffic takes more touch points than desktop. So we have to figure, where we're getting into the strategy side, we have to figure out, when someone clicks over from a Facebook ad and they're on a mobile device, how do we engage that visitor? What do we show them on the site so that we can get them engaged and get them to take 2, 3, 4, 5 additional touch points when they're going to be much more likely to make a purchase, excuse me. So this is kind of piece number one. Piece number two is figuring out what sources convert well and which ones don't. So again, we've been talking about Facebook, so I wanted to show you guys a real example of what you might see in GA when you're looking at Facebook traffic. This is all of the Facebook traffic combined for a client, and you'll see that the per session value, it's over there on the right, it's highlighted over here, is basically 1/10 of the average across their entire platform, or their entire site, if you add everything up. So this is an example of a low performing source that you might want to target and use this strategy on to maximize the conversions and really increase the value that you're getting from a channel like Facebook. This is filtered for mobile and tablet traffic over here. So how can we maximize this mobile traffic segment? So what we see here is that this segment tends to underperform. Step number 2 is figuring out which sources do tend to perform really well. So again, we're just looking at mobile and tablet traffic. Here are some of the channels that perform much better. So their email marketing, you'll see in number 3, their email marketing has a much higher per session value. Things like affiliate marketing, some of the campaigns they're running with AddShoppers, all of these channels perform higher. So how can we get people who are coming from Facebook on mobile to interact with these other campaigns that convert much higher? It's basically figuring out where should we funnel our traffic. So once you have this data pulled from Google Analytics, and this is just the standard source medium report, I prefer the e-commerce view because it gives you the per session value and then just filter it out for mobile and traffic. So once you figure out these sources, we need to figure out how can we engage that traffic with these sources that convert really well. So we usually, this is kind of the statement that we use as kind of our guiding statement for approaching mobile. So your mobile strategy should be built around generating a micro moment and capturing secondary conversions. So if you're not really sure what this means, maybe it's new terminology. Basically, what it means is a micro moment or a secondary conversion. It's basically one more step to taking a purchase without actually taking that purchase, because that purchase is, of course, the regular conversion. So these are little steps like maybe getting someone to view 3 product pages, or add a product to the cart, or share a product with their friends, or enter their email to join your to subscribe to your newsletter, or something like that. These are all micro moments, or looking at your Instagram feed, something like that. These are all little micro moments that you can engage your customers with and get them taking those additional touch points so that they're becoming closer and closer and closer to making a conversion, where then when it's time to push a conversion, they're already there. They know what they want, they love your brand, and they're ready to buy. And so this is the process that we prefer with approaching your mobile strategy. This is what tends to convert really well. So at this point, we basically know the high-level strategy of how we can lift up these underperforming either traffic sources, such as Facebook, or mobile versus desktop, or a combination of both. So what we want to do is target them for 1, and then 2, engage them once they've reached your site with campaigns that can drive micro moments. So what I'm going to do now is first I'm going to show you an example of the user experience that works really well for targeting these different channels, and then I'll show you guys a couple live examples of campaigns that we've used to do this exact thing. So if you look at the animation on the screen right now, this is an example of the portal, which is an AddShoppers our platform. And if you'll see here, it's basically just cycling through the user experience. So you'll see when the page loads, it gives you a preview of the campaigns that are available, and then when you tap into it to expand, each of the campaigns that are available on this site are listed one right after another. So you'll see there's a referral campaign, there's a contest campaign, enter to win a $50 gift card. There's the Instagram feed. Some of these are gated campaigns, enter your email. Some of them are not, like the Instagram feed. But this is basically just a list of all of the campaigns that you can engage your customers or your potential customers with, and this drives you can get all of your micro moments and secondary conversions out of engaging your customers and getting them to interact with this portal. So this is the user experience. As you'll see, it's very user friendly for mobile. You can plug it in on top of the site and use this again as essentially your engagement portal. So this is the user experience. You can see a preview of some of the campaigns that are loaded up here, but let me dive in a little deeper on some of the specific campaigns that you can run using this user experience. So the first one, we've been talking about Facebook dynamic product ads. So here's a campaign that ties back directly to that. So in this example, here's an example, look on the left, of running some dynamic product ads. In this example, we're using a sock retailer, and so here's I've gone and looked at these socks. Now I'm retargeted on Facebook, and they're showing me the socks I looked at. Well, let's say in this example, we want to offer an additional 10% off for this dynamic retargeting campaign if you click through and make a purchase today. So upon clicking on the ad, you'll land back on the site, and the portal pops up automatically and shows you, here's the 10% off code for your purchase today. So you can launch specific campaigns targeting the different ad groups that you have up and running in Facebook to offer additional personalized messaging or offers based on where they're coming from. So here's one way to lift conversions using this concept. And then once somebody copies the coupon code, they can always go back and engage with some of the other campaigns that you have live on the site. Next up is social login. So this is something we talk about a lot at AddShoppers. It always makes sense to enter into the discussion when we're talking about Facebook. Social logins are so much easier for capturing an email. Not only are they easier for the customer, which obviously increases conversion rates, but they capture more data, and the best part is the customer doesn't have to enter it out. So someone clicks a social login button to maybe they're capturing a coupon code, or maybe they are using it during checkout. With that one tap or click of a button, you can capture not only email but name, birthday, location, interest groups, and things like that. So really powerful campaign you can plug into the site, and we recommend it just about in all cases, but especially so when we're targeting Facebook traffic. So that works really well, and it captures much more data that you can use for further targeting down the line. And then, so next up here is going to be social sharing. So this is a really interesting campaign. So you'll see here, this is an example of an incentivized social sharing campaign where if you look in the middle of the screenshot, the text is a little small, but it says share with your friends and get $5 off your purchase of $50 or more. So this is really powerful because you're getting people to share out, and it has basically two benefits. So giving someone a coupon code obviously is something that you want to do to drive a conversion, and this converts to purchases really, really strongly. And I'll show actually some real numbers of the conversion rate from this campaign in the next slide. But you also get the secondary benefit here. Obviously, if someone's sharing out, that share also obviously goes out into the social networks, and it lives there, and it drives people back to the site. So then there's those incremental sales and revenue coming from the new visitors that are coming as a result of all these shares happening. So let me go ahead and jump here back into the data, and a couple things that I want to highlight on this slide. So if you go to the very, very bottom, the very last row here, you'll see that this is Facebook traffic, and social rewards mean it's someone that shared out to get a coupon like we just saw. And you'll see the conversion rate here is almost 15%. And their per session value is much, much higher than the average, which is about $3.61. So if we can engage people in campaigns like this, the conversion rates that we see after that are extremely high. So this is one of those micro moments that if you can get someone to take, it's extremely valuable. So going back, so this is obviously the conversion, that the main benefit of increasing conversion rates. The secondary benefit here is obviously all of the additional traffic that comes through from people clicking on those shares. So if you go one up, the share click numbers here we're driving back an additional basically 15,000 in revenue just from people clicking on those shared out links. The conversion rate is very strong here, almost 4% for Facebook traffic specifically. So this is definitely a really powerful campaign, two main benefits, and we see a lot of success with campaigns like this. So next up, just a couple quick, super quick bite-sized case studies to show you guys how other clients have used this. Mir here, one of our clients, they have an email capture offer here that performs 229% better than the average across their mobile site. So a great way to engage that mobile traffic. Next up, so for the same client, going back to Facebook, they get 99% of their social traffic from Facebook. It's used for 84% of their social logins, and it accounts for almost 70% of their social revenue. So This experience for them definitely helps them maximize their Facebook traffic. Here's another client. Facebook drives around 93% of their social revenue. If you look on the right, this is one campaign that they're using to engage their traffic. It's a giveaway. Sign up to win, either connect with Facebook, Google+, or enter in your email. And again, works really well for engaging their traffic and driving those micro moments. Next up, last example here, just wanted to show a quick example of the portal experience for one of our top clients. What they're using here, I'm just going to let the animation go a little bit, but essentially it's a campaign to enter a sweepstakes, and this one actually drives traffic back to Facebook where the contest lives, and they can capture all sorts of data inside of Facebook, and then run their sweepstakes through this. So another use case, an example of how you can use something like this and some of the campaigns you can engage your visitors with. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it back, and we'll get started with Q&A.
Fantastic. Thanks, Peter, and thanks, Sarah, for today's presentation and the content. A lot of good stuff there as well, and a lot of solid case studies too to kind of look back on. But yeah, as Peter mentioned, yeah, we can jump in here for questions. We have about 15, 20 minutes or so. And we can kind of get started. But before we're kind of doing that too, if you like kind of have a discussion around your Facebook dynamic ad strategy, just let us know. There's a kind of a poll that just popped up here. If you'd like to have a call with us, or no, thank you, just just let us know. That way, we can definitely follow up with you if you'd be interested in kind of learning how we could optimize your current strategy and how we currently do that for our clients. So, but yeah, let's jump into the questions. Got a lot of good ones. If you have any questions too, feel free to keep sending those over. But let's just jump into a few here. First question here, directed towards Sarah. Maggie wants to know, are there any product limits on the catalog size that you push to Facebook?
I do not believe so. I think the smallest one that I work with has about 6 products in it, and then the largest is probably over 20,000. You have to have at least one, obviously, but there's really no limit if you have multiple SKUs.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Let's see. Question here from Hendrik. I believe this is targeted toward Peter. Wants to know, I have my site set up for mobile and desktop users automatically. How do I design the desktop and mobile setup differently to have a different user experience, I guess? You'd be able to answer that one, Peter?
Yeah. So I guess I'm assuming that we're talking about like a completely separate mobile site versus desktop. I guess I'll cover both cases. If you have 2 completely separate sites set up, you should be able to, just push different things to the mobile site versus the desktop site. And then if you're using a third-party tool, so something like AddShoppers, anything that you have layered into the site, you should be able to set up targeting based off device. I know when I can speak obviously for AddShoppers, and that's something we could you could do, set up different separate mobile campaigns versus desktop campaigns. You should be able to do it, I would think, in any other platform that you're leveraging. And then really the same thing would apply if you don't have different mobile versus desktop sites. Maybe you just have a responsive site or something like that. Again, third-party tools, you should be able to segment out by traffic source. So say, show this to mobile traffic but not to desktop, show this to all traffic, show this to only desktops, and so on. And then, again, on your website, if you're just talking about first-party things, probably you can do things like CSS targeting or maybe JavaScript. Can't talk into that too much, but I hope that answers the question. Again, if I feel free to submit the question again if I maybe missed a key point of information or got it off exactly what you were asking a little bit, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, nice. Hendrik said perfect, thank you. So looks like you answered the question, so appreciate it, Peter. Sarah, question here from Connor. Kind of a broad question here, but wants to know, what is your experience with split testing? And I believe he was referring to Facebook's new split testing that came out a couple months back.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a broad question. Yeah.
So have we been currently used Doing that, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with Facebook, I mean, the key point that I want to drive home here is what works for one brand won't necessarily work for another. What worked, 1 month ago may not work today. So basically, all of Facebook really should be testing and learning, and really I'm going to drive the best revenue. I'm going to really, resonate with your client base or your customer base. So yes, split testing is a great way to really be able to figure out, okay, what's the type of creative that's working right now? What's the audience that's really, working right now? So definitely, if you have it available in your ads manager, by all means, go ahead and use it. I think it's a really valuable tool.
Great, thanks, Sarah. I appreciate it. Question here for Peter. Jackie wants to know, you touched on micro moments. Pardon me. She wants to know, can you elaborate a little more on micro moments? Like, what are they, I guess, and give a overview of an example of what a micro moment would necessarily be?
Yeah, sure. So again, micro moments basically are little steps that show intent that someone can take and that you can track on a website. So you may want to think of micro moments like certain things, like let's say you have an email newsletter. If someone signs up for your email newsletter, that's a micro moment. It's showing engagement, it's showing intent. It's a step towards being a customer, but obviously it's not actually making a purchase yet. You could, depending on how granular you want to get, you could call viewing a product page a micro moment. Or adding a product to the cart would be another example of a micro moment, where it's an indicator of engagement that you're seeing someone take on the site that kind of precludes making a purchase. So something like, I hope that makes sense. It's basically something that shows intent. Just a step, something that you can track without actually making a purchase. So, yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it. Let's see if we can jump in here to another question for Sarah. Question here from Gal. Asked us earlier on when we went over kind of different retargeting methods. Wants to know, can you elaborate a little bit more around dynamic retargeting? Like, what do you necessarily mean by when you're kind of talking about dynamic retargeting? Could you just elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so dynamic retargeting came out probably about 1.5 years ago on Facebook. It's all based off of your product feed, as well as the Facebook pixel. So basically, you're able to upload your actual products into Facebook, as well as place the pixel on your site, and those two essentially get married, so that when someone actually views that product on your site, it sends an indicator back to Facebook saying, hey, this person viewed this particular product, so that you can dynamically retarget them with exactly what they've seen on site. And so this is different from everything else that's on Facebook in that you basically choose the creative and the copy in other areas of Facebook advertising versus dynamic product ads. It's dynamically showing people what they've actually viewed or added to cart on site. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, appreciate it, Sarah. Thank you. Let's see, got a question here around kind of social login, so probably more directed towards Peter. What are your recommendations? I mean, this is a little bit more broad too, but wants to know where do you actually place the social login on the website? Like, what are your recommendations there? I guess you can start, kind of one-on-one level where you would put that there, and then other opportunities as well.
Yeah, definitely. So really, with social login, there's 3 main placements that you're going to want to pay attention to. Number one, probably the most intuitive, would obviously be on your login or create your account pages, wherever you have those on the site. Number 2 is going to be in the checkout process. So, if you ask someone to log in or create an account before purchase, have it as an option there. Or if you have, maybe you just default to guest checkouts, and there isn't a step for logging in or anything like that. You still might want to put a social login there to basically autofill some of the information, make it a little bit easier for people to fill out the checkout form. So those are kind of the first 2 places. So on your account or registration page, and then during the checkout process. And then number 3 is going to be in any of your email capture forms. So if you have a, welcome, sign up and get 10% off your first order, or something like that, allowing somebody to log in with social, so sign in with Google or enter your email address, or sign in with Facebook or enter your email address. That would be the other place that I would recommend adding in a social login option. So any kind of an email capture, any of your email subscriber forms, those are also a really good place to put social login. You should see more email captures as a result of that.
Great, thank you, Peter. Let's jump into another question here for Sarah. Question here from Connor. Wants to know, I'm looking into creating the new collection ad type Facebook recently released. Have you used it? And if you have used it, have you seen improved performance associated with the ad type? So I guess, have you actually used it yet, Sarah?
I have not. We're actually launching one this week for a client, but it's kind of in the pipeline for everybody. So I don't necessarily have any hard data around it. My initial thought is that it's not going to outperform what Facebook currently has available, but it can be a great second option, and it's really highly engaging ad unit. So it could be really great for at the top of the funnel, just to get in front of people who don't necessarily know about you, and show them your product feed, as well as any sort of particular apparel or whatever your product is that you really want to get out in front of people. It could be a really great way to showcase multiple products without people having to actually visit that on your site. So I don't have hard data. I can definitely share that at a later point, maybe as a case study or something like that. But definitely, if you have that available, by all means, use it.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Let's jump into another question here from Oscar. I think it's directed more towards Peter. Wants to know, I believe you mentioned that you think mobile needs more touch points than desktop. He wants to know, why do you think this is the case?
Yeah, so this is basically just coming directly from the data, and you can, of course, pull this data for your own site. If you go into I'll show you where to find it if you use GA, and then I'll kind of go into how you pull that and why But basically, if you go into Google Analytics, go to the conversions report in your navigation, and then go to multi-channel funnels and then path length. It's the last option under multi-channel funnels. This will give you basically a breakdown of all the conversions, and it'll drop them into different buckets based on the number of interactions or touch points that happened before the conversion happened. And then if you set up a filter for mobile versus desktop, you can get the exact same data that I showed on the screen, but obviously for your site, so you have real data that you're looking at. But basically, the reason that I kind of said that is because those are real numbers, from a real GA account. And you can see the skew between where desktop traffic, there's many more conversions that happen in one touch point on desktop than mobile, and there's many more conversions that happen after 12 touch points on mobile versus desktop. So you can it'll maybe make a little more sense if you actually pull the numbers for your own site and look at it. But once you kind of jump into that report and see it, you can see the difference between mobile and desktop, and where the desktop traffic is just converting in many fewer touch points than the mobile traffic.
Fantastic. Thanks, Peter. Let's kind of finish things off here with this last question. It might be a depends question, but I definitely wanted to address it. A question here from Jack. Sarah, it might be more targeted towards you, but Peter, you can definitely weigh in as well. As far as social media platforms go, do you believe that Facebook provides kind of the greatest value for return? And if so, too, are there any other platforms that you should kind of be paying attention to for kind of increased return? I know this might be a depends question depending on the actual company, but what are your initial thoughts?
I would say if you're looking at revenue specifically as your metric of success, Facebook is going to outperform everything that's currently in the market. That's my personal stance on that. That's what I've seen with multiple clients who've been on other social media platforms. Instagram can really, can work, and that's the depends one if you have solid creative, but Facebook is always going to be the top performer right now. I think one to keep an eye on is Snapchat. I don't think it rivals Facebook yet at all, but it is definitely working towards it and has a very similar model. But I would say right now in the immediate, if you are focusing your social ad dollars, you should definitely focus them on Facebook.
Yeah, Peter, anything to add there?
Well, I'll defer to you guys on the on the advertising side of things, but yeah, I would tend to agree. Only thing I would toss in, and this isn't super data backed, but don't sleep on Twitter ads. There are cheap clicks to be had on Twitter, and the engagement isn't necessarily as low as you might expect. So I'll just toss that in there.
Fantastic. All right, well, that is going to do it for today's presentation. I appreciate everyone kind of joining in for today's discussion. I appreciate you kind of joining in for the Q&A portion. And, of course, thank you to our presenters, Sarah and Peter, for today's content and kind of helping to put this whole webinar together. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at CPC Strategy. And same thing for AddShoppers. If you want to find out more information, you can go to, I believe it's just AddShoppers.com. Kind of reach out to them and find out more information about their platform as well. But this has been recorded. It'll hopefully get it sent out to you tomorrow. If not, probably 2 days from now, I'll have this out to you with the recording and the PDFs and everything like that. So, but that's going to do it for today's discussion call. Signing off from the greater Boston area, this is CPC Strategy.